All right, so today we've got a bunch of questions from the viewers on entrepreneurship, SMMA, social media marketing agency, Ecom agency, personal life, and a few more juicy topics. I've picked only the best of the best for the YouTube video. So we're gonna go through 8 different questions. I'm gonna be giving you in-depth answers, my view, my controversial view on a bunch of different topics. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Let me light my candle. Let's set the vibe. Boom, done. And yeah, let's get right into it. So, question is, best LinkedIn cold messages. So one of the things you need to understand about reaching out on LinkedIn is that the message is actually not going to do much speaking. Let me explain what I mean by this. What you need to understand is that platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, what works on these platforms is what I call the organic profile funnel. And what that means is that it's not just a one-dimensional approach where you send out a message and you get a reply, and the only thing that they base their decision on whether they want to jump on a call with you or not is on the message. No, it's 3-dimensional, right? So they look at the content and they look at your profile, and then obviously they look at the message. And so keep that in mind, because it's not solely focusing on the message and what the script for that message is gonna should look like, but actually focusing on having a very optimized profile that doesn't tell them you're going to sell them something ideally, and also having high converting content that makes you not look like a fly-by-night opportunist that just wants to take advantage of the industry, okay? And positions you as an authority. So that's the first thing that you want to keep in mind. The second thing, when it comes to the actual message, what works the best on these platforms is not an actual script, okay? Is what really my appointment setting framework that I use on social media is very simple, okay? You want to understand where they're currently at with their business, what they're doing, and the way you can initiate that conversation is maybe give them a little, maybe props on what they're doing, maybe, so that you guys are killing it with your TikTok content. How is that going? I'm sure that you must be getting a lot of sales from just, that organic marketing. How's that going, right? And initiating that conversation on where they're currently at, then seeing where they're trying to get to and what's kind of like the main roadblock right now, and then proposing a goal where you can go over a plan of action for them to move forward, and a plan of action that is proven that you and your team can go ahead and create for them. And so that's kind of the framework that you want to use in a nutshell. Obviously, there's got a little bit more to it, and I could talk about it for hours on end, but that is a little bit about LinkedIn outreach. Next is, how long did you land the first client? So it took me, it depends, right? Because when I started out, I started with a local business agency, and that took me around 3 months. And then for my Ecom client, it also took me around 3 months. Knowing what I know now, I could have done it in way less. But what you need to understand also about the agency space is that when it rains, it pours. And so when you have the right systems, that first client is just kind of like the momentum builder. And when you actually sign that first client, you will find that you start going on a client signing spree because you just needed that first client to get over that first initial hurdle. Next is, what should be the monthly budget for softwares and stuff to run the agency? I don't think you should be spending a lot of money when you start a business, right? Not a social media marketing agency, nor any other type of business for that matter, right? I'm a big proponent, especially for that first business. And most of these online businesses are beginner centric. So most of the people starting these businesses, it typically is your first business, right? So I'm a big believer that you shouldn't be spending a lot of money when you start out. You always want to scale the budget as you scale the business. And so, starting out, you shouldn't be spending more than $20 to $50 a month on softwares. And most of us can do that, right? So that is that. Ecom or recruiting agency? I mean, obviously you probably know what the answer is going to be for that, but I think Ecom agency is literally the biggest opportunity, and I think the people that can garner the skill of being able to grow things online for companies and for other people are going to be the most valuable people in the next 10, 15 years, right? And so anything compared to Ecom agency is going to end up losing, unfortunately. But specifically recruiting agency, I'm not an expert in recruiting agency, but I am, I do know how it kind of works. And I also know that it's a little bit similar to an influencer marketing agency in the sense that you're dealing with people. And one of the things that I will say is, like, every time you have to deal with people as your primary service, right? It causes a little bit of chaos and it brings complexity into your life and into your business, right? And so if it's like, human resource oriented, or if it's like you have to actually speak to influencers and you have to hear them out and listen to them and listen to how they feel and listen to their emotions and all this stuff, right? And that brings more complexity than looking at a bunch of numbers on a Facebook Ads Manager or TikTok Ads Manager or whatever service you're offering and scaling those numbers, right? Numbers tend to be less emotional than people, and thus they bring less complexity into your life. And thus I prefer services that are more numbers oriented than people oriented. I love people, but I do love a low complexity business. So that is that. What to do when the reply is not interested? Is there something that I can do? So this is a good question, right? Because I do have a little bit of a weird take on this. Oftentimes, if they've written to you that they're not interested, especially if you're using an organic profile funnel approach, but even if you're reaching out to them on a platform like email, they've made their decision, right? And so what you should, if you're getting that a lot, then you have to look at what, what's kind of like the tonality of my email, or how am I coming across on social media? Is my content good? Is my profile optimized? How am I initiating interaction, right? Because if they're writing not interested straight off the bat, then it's very simple. You're not catching their attention, right? Obviously, there are most people are not in the market for your services. I understand that, but even the people that are not in the market for your services, there's always a certain percentage that are in a consideration stage, right? There's always that 3% that are already in buying mode, but there's always a pretty good chunk of people, 20 to 30%, that are in a consideration stage, right? And so if you're getting that a lot, more than a higher percentage than you should, then chances are you're not coming across in the right way. And so what I would do is analyze, right? I would take that as feedback. I would analyze what I'm doing, right? I would tweak a few things, and then obviously move on from this prospect. The other approach, maybe a bunch of salespeople would tell you this, is to dig in a little bit further. What's the main thing that they're not in? Ask them what they're not interested in. Is it the service? Is it like the timing? What is it? And then you can start digging a little bit more and seeing their see their pain points, see their limiting beliefs, and try to develop the conversation a little bit further. But my approach is like, there's so many leads out there, there's so many ecom brands out there that would be very happy to work with me, that I just don't waste time on people that already tell me they're not interested. But that's also me knowing that my systems are already pretty optimized, because I've been working on them and optimizing them for the past 2 to 3 years, right? And so I think the main thing that you need to take away is you need to take that as a sign of feedback, okay? And then see what you can improve on so that you catch their attention if you're getting that a lot. How many clients does your agency currently have? We've got 12 clients right now, plus my 2 ecom brands. So that's 14 brands that we're currently working on. And yeah, I mean, considering the amount of money that we make, I think it's pretty reasonable. It's not a lot of clients, and that's the beauty about the ecom agency model, the fact that you can scale past 100K per month, past 200K per month, and not have to pack on a lot of volume. Which actually brings me to the next question, which is thoughts on scaling lead gen agency to 100K per month. So I'm sure it's doable. I haven't seen a lot of people do it. In fact, I haven't seen anyone do it. But I'm sure there are people out there that have done it. I mean, to scale a lead gen agency, you have to pack on a lot of clients. So you have to do it through a client volume, because you cannot take a percentage of the money that you're making them, unless maybe you're doing real estate or something like that, where maybe you can take a percentage of the leads that they do close. It's not like e-commerce where you can take a percentage of the revenue you're generating for them. And so I think it's way more doable with an ecom agency. And you might think that I'm biased towards ecom agency, but just look at the pure facts, right? Most of the money that we make, meaning my students and myself, we make from the ad profit deals, meaning most of the money that we make is from the money that we make them. Yes, we do have those fixed fees, but most of the money comes from the money we make them, right? And that money grows month on month as we scale how much we spend for them, okay? And so it's much easier to scale because a bunch of my students and myself included, the monthly income that we get from our clients, including the fixed retainers plus the ad profit deals, exceeds the 10K per month mark. Makes sense? And so when you have 5, 10 of those clients, then it's pretty easy to scale, right? And you don't have to have to pack on a lot of client and do it through volume, right? Then you start taking equity in those brands. Then you start building your own ecom brand. And so it's much, much easier to scale than a lead gen agency. And finally, would you sell your agency? The simple answer is no, at least not in the near future. Also understanding that an agency is not one of those business models that it's really engineered to sell very easily. But I reckon that I still could sell the agency. However, I wouldn't, simply because it fuels and pays for my lifestyle. For everything that, for all the toys that I bought, for all the travels and, much more. And so I wouldn't do that. And I love the brands that I work with, right? And so it actually fuels my passion. And also I love my team. I love my agency team. And not only that, but without my agency team, right? Without the capital that I make from the agency, I wouldn't be able to fund the Ecom brands, which is how I transfer the wealth that I make from the agency into something that I can actually sell, right? And so the Ecom brands, I do see myself selling in 5 to 10 years, right? That is the type of business model that you can transfer wealth to, right? And it becomes an asset that then you can sell. The agency is it's just a great cash flow business, right? It's super cash flow positive, it's super profitable, and it's super enjoyable and fun. And so that's kind of how I think about the agency, and how I think of taking the capital, and how it just pays for all my life, right? The capital that I make from the agency, as I said, fuels pays for my lifestyle. It funds much of my Ecom brands, and then I can also invest that money and put it into different investments like crypto, NFTs. I don't do NFTs, but crypto and a bunch of other stuff, right? That I, real estate that I'm investing into. So yeah. That is that for this Q&A session. If you enjoyed this video and you haven't joined the free Facebook community, then I urge you to do that. There's a lot of live trainings. I'm going live there pretty much every single day. Me and the team are just dropping so many value bombs. So if you're not a part of that, then you're missing out. There's going to be a link in the description. You can go ahead and apply. There's a bunch of questions. If you're a good fit, we'll let you in. And with that being said, you're on the second channel. If you haven't subbed to it, go ahead and do that. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.